I mean, if I rewind the clock even a year, 2 years ago, I didn't even think it was on the radar that like we'd be doing this so soon. We're in London, we have a sold-out show, we're touring, we have a world tour ahead of us, and holy shit.
Okay, cool.
For the first time, I actually feel like not nervous at all.
For the first time?
Not nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been nervous on every show?
Yeah.
But London, first time overseas, you're not nervous?
No.
Must be the accent. I have no doubt he's gonna crush it. That's not my concern. I'm just wondering, he's more nervous about playing in Portland, Oregon than in London, England. And I just, hey, things have changed. Maybe when we cross the Atlantic, everything's, I'm ready to soar, let's go. Maybe he feels at home,
Internet's down. This is why you can't rely on the internet before shows. What would happen if I'm missing a song? I'd be fucked. I'm at the point in my set where I have this beautiful crate of music that is 4 hours long, but I only have 2. What to do, guys? What to do? Easy. There are very clearly some songs that I could cut. Like, for example, I have... I have this song, which, like, I would love to play it if I had more time, but... Everyone knows. I just wanted to, like, bring it back. This is an important piece of, like, the history of Indo. 4 or 5 months before the first Indo Warehouse show, Kunal came to that. And I knew Kunal as this figure in New York City who's, like, cool and interesting and, like, does cool stuff with music, but I don't know him on a personal level.
Say more.
And yeah, I invited him, being like, hey, doing this thing. From what I recall, at some point in the night, he was like, all right, this is cool, whatever, but like I got other stuff to do. And then he's walking down, like leaving the building, and he stops because all of a sudden he potentially hears, he asks himself, is that a live singer singing like Indian classical music right now? What? And he paused and he turned around and he went upstairs, and to his surprise, he was correct. We had a live singer, Ben Parag, like doing rags on a track.
Yeah, I was intrigued, and that got me to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And I think that's what it's always been. It's been about the experience.
Right now, our main focus is delivering on an experience through sound. A year from now, I want people to actually know us for being incredible producers. Right now, there's a hype and excitement around we're a party, we're a show. I want people to remember or think of us as like world-class musicians first.
Okay, so I'll go first, you go second, and as long as Dhawan them, because then we can just spend time with the visual guy and then we can get the fuck out of here.
The origin of the name actually came about because I was working on a track all night, and what ended up happening was by the end of it, I'd created a track in like 3 sections. And so section 1, I'm building it and I'm kind of creating this visual in my head, a story, have you. And section 2 occurs and I'm like, okay, then I want this to happen, this to happen. Section 3 happens and I'm like, okay, this. By the end of it, I was like, oh, I've written an entire like short film, in my head at least. Like, I have all the cues, I know where everything's going, what's the purpose of it. And in that exact moment, I think I was searching for a name. And in that moment, I realized, I'm like, this isn't a one-time thing, this happens all the time. Every time I'm producing something, I'm kind of like, I'm a very visual person, so I'm kind of building this like story arc. Yeah, and then that's the same way I think, not just me, but I think both of us kind of look at our sets. From start to finish, there's a reason for everything. There's peaks, there's valleys, there's like movement, and every set has a proper like conclusion. So that's that. We're almost raised in a way to naturally like play it safe because that's typically what our parents had to do to survive.
Yeah.
And so that now trickles down to us. And so it's like there's a small percentage of us that are willing to like jump higher than everyone else.
You know, we got to remember that as immigrants, they came over, took a substantial risk, bigger risk than we've ever taken, to leave their families behind, come over here. Yeah. And so their number one focus was to build a home for their future families to live. And they did anything possible to do that. Indo Warehouse for me started in my teens, where it was the first time I was exposed to like house music. I just remember the pulse and the energy of the music triggered me in such a positive way that I would be at my Sunday school listening to religious songs and trying to, in my head, mentally add that beat and pulse to it.
The South Asian market, the community, the people at large, the interesting things about all of us, it is difficult to tap into that effectively. People are doing things in their own pockets. In the creative side, just like our music, our film, our art, our way of expressing ourselves is just like fucking cool. Like, we have so much to offer that's untapped. There isn't, or I would say there wasn't, a place that you could feel like, oh yeah, this is where our people gather to like vibe out, to express themselves, to connect. Actually have footage the day before the first Indo Warehouse where we're walking down my street and I'm literally having this conversation with Vic about how like, yo, a year from now, we're gonna be at Brooklyn Mirage. I literally have that fucking footage. A year from now, we're gonna be at Brooklyn Mirage. Like I said this shit. Yeah. And literally we have our own stage at Sunburn in 4 months. We just conquered Brooklyn Mirage. What that means to me is that they trust us, and then we're gonna take this and, you know, get on the phone with the folks at Coachella and all these other big festivals and be like, hey, like our sound is something you haven't heard before. Like we need stage time. Yeah. You gotta give us stage time because like this sound is infectious and it's unstoppable. And not just the music. I mean, that's the other thing. I think it's not just about the music. Everything we do is an experience, which is why there's so much effort in building out the room tomorrow, knowing that it's a small starter event of ours.
Indo Warehouse is introducing something completely new to the scene. Reimagining South Asian sound in the global dance music landscape.
Bringing house music and our South Asian roots together.
The one thing about Indo that I've learned over the last year is that there's an energy to Indo, and there's just a lot of love in the room.
This is the first time Indo's performing with the whole roster together, and I think it will curate a really cohesive experience from start to finish of what the Indo house sound is, how broad the sound is, all the different elements that go into it, and hopefully create something bigger than each of the individual parts.
It's tough to say if there is a place in the world outside of New York that I'm more excited about playing than London. Just this place has so much meaning to me from a music standpoint. I mean, yesterday we were listening to Radio 1 on the way home, and they're like playing 135 BPM techno on like their mainstream station. It's like, that's just, it's in the culture here. Music is like so connected to the people, so I'm very excited about playing. I've been circling this date.
Yeah.
I think the moment where we're like, we gotta take Indo out of New York, the first thought came to mind was London. But we said London's gotta be special. We're like, we're not gonna rush to London until we can do it right. And the fact that we're here now, and the fact that 2,000 people are gonna be at our first London show, and it's sold out a week before the show happened, like, I gotta be honest, I know you're a confident cat, but this is a beautiful surprise to me.
By the end of the night, we can then ask ourselves and ask London, like, all right, you fuck with us now? All right, cool. Like, let's do this again, bigger and better.
Okay, Ben, count down, 3, 2, 1.
3.
You're not Ben, I guess, Ben. Count it down, Ben.
3, 2, 1.
The question we pose anytime we're building a show is, from the moment someone jumps out of the Uber to the moment they get back in their Uber, we want to be creating touch points across that whole stream. As you hop out the Uber, you look up and you see this big warehouse with a light that says Indo Warehouse. Someone greets you, you go through the main room, you see a beautiful marketplace where we have vendors selling all sorts of stuff. And the first thing you get is a whiff of like sandalwood. You're kind of like, this doesn't stop. Within the first 15 minutes of being there, we've hit each and every one of your senses. And every time we did that, we also connected it with culture in some way. Now, for the next 5 hours,
You're with us.
rock out.
Yeah.
So I literally made this in November of 2021. And I put like 50 tracks on it. And I just threw it into the universe. I was like, yo, here it is. And then literally 2 weeks later, I called up a venue and I was like, hey, can I book you guys out on February 26th? They were like, yeah, here's the rate. I said, all right, bet. Boom, boom, boom. Started selling tickets, we sold it out, and that was the story, Indo Warehouse, #1. And ever since, I mean, our story's not over yet, so.